Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to share some thoughts and theories I have about Captain Marvel 2, in particular what we could potentially see, what Captain Marvel 2 could be about. Obviously, at the time of me recording this, there is no information out there about what Captain Marvel 2 would be about, but I just thought, like, I might as well take some time to kind of, throw out there some thoughts I've kind of had in the back of my mind, as well as some thoughts that other people have kind of thrown out there as well. So obviously one big plot point that I'm curious to see how they handle is obviously from Captain Marvel to Endgame, there's a 20+ year period. I mean, even add on an extra 5 years because of the 5-year time skip in Endgame. So it makes me wonder, is that something they're going to cover at all? Like, will that be like the main plot of Captain Marvel 2? Or is that something like in the opening credits, you get to see like a little history of all that Carol did in that 20 years? Because no other character in the MCU has been introduced the way she has. I mean, granted, Cap was, but Cap was frozen all that time, and they've never really, I guess, well, I'm about to say, like, they never really went back to really cover all that time frame, so they might do the same thing for Carol where they don't go into that 20 years. I mean, the difference is Cap was frozen for all that time, but still the world kind of went on, but maybe that's not, but the point is, Carol was doing a lot in that 20+ years. For one, she was helping, the Skrulls find a home and everything. And also, like, apparently she was basically space cop, like dealing with like the universe, helping all that. Like, so I'm wondering, is that gonna be something we see like bits of in Captain Marvel 2, maybe bounce back and forth between present day and the past? Maybe some stuff she did in the past is coming back to kind of, like, some bad guys she dealt with in the past might be coming back to deal with her present day. Like, a great example to kind of put in perspective is, it might kind of have a bit of an Arrow sense of, like, how Arrow had, like, if you're unfamiliar with Arrow, the TV show, basically it would show you, like, the show would be present day, but all throughout the episodes, at least for the first 5 seasons, they would cut back to stuff that Oliver dealt with in that 5-year time period of him being on Lee and you. I'm curious if it's going to be something like that with Carol. Like I said, both like just the past and the present coming together in that regard. Or will the entire movie take place like post Endgame is what I'm curious about as well. Because the thing is, like, she even, once again, one of the coolest lines from Endgame is like, yeah, the Earth has the Avengers. Not every other planet in the universe is lucky enough to have people like you. Because obviously when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, there's only, like, on the cosmic level currently where the MCU stands, there's only like 3 main people, that being Carol, Thor, and the Guardians. But even then, like, it seems like Carol plays a much bigger role. And what that necessary role is, I'd love to kind of dive into that, whether it be we get clips of it or whether we focus on it. I don't know which one would be more interesting. Some thoughts other people had about potentially Captain Marvel 2 is, because Carol is as super powerful as she is currently standing, she is potentially the most powerful person in the MCU, definitely currently. The fact is that, it'd be kind of hard to write a movie around someone super powerful, so some people are like, all right, make a movie where she kind of loses her powers, because she's been kind of top dog for like the past 20 years, and basically having to kind of go back and, fight something or someone without all those cosmic abilities. It could be obviously an interesting, hero's journey of kind of like, because obviously the first movie, she had access to her powers, but obviously when she really discovered who she was able to unlock all of her powers. But now you kind of be building her back up in the sense of, like, she loses it all, and then throughout the movie having to slowly piece together getting her powers back. That, like I said, that could be an interesting route they could go down. And since I also brought them up earlier with the whole Skrull situation, because obviously in that 20+ years, at least that we're aware of, the Skrulls haven't been on Earth. Because obviously the big question is, like, Hill and Fury, when did they get switched out for Talos and his wife? Was that post Endgame, or were they already on Earth for a while? I've been under the assumption it has to be post Endgame, because I'm thinking like Endgame is what set Fury to be like, all right, let's create what people are calling it Sword. It's obviously like a more cosmic version of Shield. Where Shield is meant to protect, the Sword, I guess, is kind of supposed to be more on the offensive side of things. Obviously, whatever it is that Fury's building up in the sky, I mean, up, well, out in space. Question is, does Carol know about that? Because obviously, Fury's kind of handled a whole bunch of stuff over the years on how, like, obviously, like, the Avengers were put together, for the purpose of, in case anything ever, he was waiting. Because of his experience with Carol, it made him go, like, there are greater threats out there that we need some system in play to prevent stuff like that, hence why the Avengers became a thing. So obviously, once again, we're going more cosmic now, so we're going to try and get more cosmic people on the Avengers angle, which obviously, like, I didn't talk about it, but technically, even though Doctor Strange he kind of falls in that category of space and time, so it's not just Earth he's protecting. It is kind of like, especially depending on how the whole multiverse and into the multiverse of madness situation plays out, we can definitely see him picking up a more cosmic level. I mean, he kind of operates on that cosmic level anyway. What I'm also curious about too is the whole situation with Nova, because obviously we know that the Nova Corps got wiped out by Thanos, so like I'm curious like how that's all going to play into potentially introducing Nova, because obviously we know that Nova is part of the Guardians, which it makes you wonder, is Nova and the Guardians ever going to cross paths with Captain Marvel, especially if she's out there kind of doing her thing. It's interesting too because like the whole Monica situation, because we know, well, obviously her character is older now because she's going to be in WandaVision. She was going to be introduced as, and maybe she won't have her powers yet, but that was a big question of like, okay, once again, like, so does that mean that Carol will be more on Earth, you know? Because obviously she hasn't potentially been back in those 20 plus years as well, you know, so that, you know, where was she before she got, you know, the signal to come back to Earth, you know, to deal with the events of Endgame, both at the beginning as well as later on after the time skip when she's there at the very end to help against the battle against Thanos. And then another thing that kind of crossed my mind as well, and this is something I actually brought up a little while back when it was revealed that obviously like there was going to be a Miss Marvel TV show coming to Disney Plus. Well, the interesting thing about that is obviously like Miss Marvel has a connection to Captain Marvel. That's actually where her name came from, because I talked about this before. I thought that was interesting. She calls herself Miss Marvel because she's a huge fan of Captain Marvel. Well, the fact is Captain Marvel hasn't really been on Earth that much, so that's why I'm wondering like, is she gonna be one of, like, and I talked about this before, maybe make it so that Captain Marvel was like, oh my god, Miss Marvel was like, oh my god, don't you guys see like everyone else has their favorite like Avengers and stuff like that, and she's like the only one that's like, oh yeah, I love Captain Marvel, and they're like, who? Because she's not around enough. Or it could be a thing of stuff does go down on Earth and Carol is there, and that could be how we get introduced to Miss Marvel, which also, once again, that also brings up the whole conversation about Inhumans, because technically within the confines of this MCU, that is all this what is considered canon, she would be the first Inhuman introduced, once again, you know, because of the whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing not being like canonical in its weird way, you know. So there's also the thing of the Eternals, because obviously the Eternals is coming out this year, and Captain Marvel 2 most likely won't be until phase 5, so it turns into that thing of like, okay, so obviously the Eternals act on that cosmic level. Is Carol going to have any interaction with them? You know, that has to be kind of considered. I mean, that depends on what their story ends up being and how out and about the Eternals end up being in the grand scheme of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, whether they're just always in the background or whether they have a more forward position once they get introduced. You know, stuff like that has to be thought about as well. I mean, that's the thing about all this. Like I said, there's going to be so much happening before we even get to Captain Marvel 2. So this is all just what I'm thinking of now. Depending on how everything in phase 4 plays out and what might happen before Captain Marvel 2, like that could shift a lot about what ends up happening in Captain Marvel 2, because who knows, by then maybe we get introduced to our new big baddie, our new Thanos, whether it be Galactus. I mean, it'd be really interesting if you got like Carol and Silver Surfer. I could not say that. Sorry. But also that depends on if they introduce the Fantastic Four at that point in time too, you know, so that depends on how like all that gets played out. I'm assuming that's not going to be until like after phase 5, maybe the end of phase 5. Like I said, we don't know the full scale of everything. So right now, this is just what's going through my mind. Obviously, like I said, a lot of this can change depending on how everything else prior to Captain Marvel 2 plays out. These are my thoughts. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good